Hi, this is Nicole again. I serve as one of the spokespersons for Nehemiah Reset. Today I wanted to talk about a recent step that was taken to support women's sports. In a surprise move, the University of Pennsylvania recently signed an agreement with the U.S. Department of Education regarding the participation of transgender athletes in women's sports. This agreement comes on the heels of the Trump administration's strong stance against allowing transgender athletes to compete in women's sports, a position that was allowed during the Biden administration. The Trump administration's position on transgender athletes participating in women's sports was clear from the beginning. Former President Trump himself stated his belief that allowing transgender athletes to compete in women's sports was unfair to female athletes and threatened the integrity of women's sports. The administration took steps to enforce this belief, including threatening to withhold federal funding from schools that allowed transgender athletes to participate in women's sports. In contrast, the Biden administration had taken a more inclusive approach to transgender rights, including the rights of transgender athletes. President Biden had signed executive orders aimed at protecting the rights of transgender individuals, including the right to participate in sports according to their gender identity. This change in administration has forced the University of Pennsylvania to reconsider its policies regarding transgender athletes participating in women's sports. As a result of pressure from the Trump administration, the University of Pennsylvania has signed an agreement with the U.S. Department of Education to ban transgender athletes from competing in women's sports. This agreement is seen as a way to uphold the purpose of Title IX, a federal law that prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex in any education program or activity that receives federal funding. By banning transgender athletes from women's sports, the University of Pennsylvania is ensuring that female athletes have a fair and level playing field. The agreement between the University of Pennsylvania and the U.S. Department of Education outlines several key points. First and foremost, it establishes that only biological females will be allowed to compete in women's sports at the university. This means that transgender athletes who were assigned male at birth will not be permitted to compete on women's teams. Additionally, the agreement sets forth guidelines for determining an individual's sex, including requiring medical documentation of biological sex. This agreement is expected to serve as a template for other universities that currently allow transgender athletes to participate in women's sports. The U.S. Department of Education has made it clear that schools that do not comply with Title IX by banning transgender athletes from women's sports could face consequences, including loss of federal funding. This has put pressure on universities across the country to reassess their policies regarding transgender athletes. In conclusion, the agreement between the University of Pennsylvania and the U.S. Department of Education regarding transgender athletes in women's sports is a divisive issue. While the Trump administration took a hardline stance against allowing transgender athletes to compete in women's sports, the Biden administration had taken a more inclusive approach. The agreement signed by the University of Pennsylvania is seen as a definitive statement to uphold the integrity of women's sports. It remains to be seen how this agreement will be enforced and whether it will set a precedent for other universities to follow suit. We only hope that this agreement will serve as a template for other universities that currently allow transgender athletics to participate in women's sports, which stands against the spirit of Title IX. This legislation was meant to protect women and give them equal rights in all school sports. Thanks for watching and have a great day.
My name is Daniel. I am one of the spokespersons for Nehemiah Reset. The prior video was sponsored by Nehemiah Reset, a 501c3 Christian organization. Our mission is to assist Christians in developing a biblical worldview as it pertains to relevant cultural and biblical issues. We seek to inform Christ's followers, equip them, and mobilize them into action to vote for their biblical values and to actively engage in our culture. We are also committed to help Christians and non-believers to develop a better biblical worldview. Nehemiah Reset produces videos and ebooks to assist members of the church in developing a biblical worldview when it comes to cultural issues and biblical ideas. We produce videos on key topics like public school indoctrination, the woke agenda, sex education, equity and inclusion, climate change, immigration, religious freedom, and much, much more. We also produce videos regarding key biblical topics that help Christians become more Christ-like. To learn more about Nehemiah Reset or to watch our latest videos, go to our website at nehemiahreset.org, our rumble.com channel, or our YouTube channel. We produce videos every week. To get a weekly list of our latest videos, sign up for our weekly newsletter by clicking the subscribe button at our website. You can support our website by liking our videos, subscribing to our channels, or providing donations to help us produce videos and attract more viewers. Thanks for your help in growing God's kingdom and bringing more people to Christ. Thank you for your support. Have a great day.